Hey Sea Dragons! This is my second beginning origami video. In this video I'm going to show you how to fold a cat, but the really important thing is not that you're going to have a cat at the end of this, it's that you're learning to read the instructions. When you learn to read origami instructions, it's going to allow you to make any kind of origami that you want. There's different levels of origami you can make. We're starting at beginning level, but there's lots of cool models out there like animals and spaceships and almost anything you can think of that you can make if you learn to read the instructions. So I'm going to show you the things that the instructions tell you and show you what those things mean for folding your paper and creating the model in the instructions. I'll show you some examples of the cool things you can make with a little bit more practice. Some things you could really do once you've worked your way up and done a few different models. For this cat that we're going to make, you need to have a square paper. If you don't have a square paper around, you can find any paper that is not too stiff that you'll be able to fold and turn it into a square by watching my first beginning origami video called Starting Origami. I'll show you in that video how to make a square out of any paper that you find, and then it'll be ready to make a model with. Most origami uses a square, so you'll need to learn how to make a square out of the paper you find at home. Here are a few tips I'm going to be reminding you as we're folding our origami. A lot of times if we make a mistake, it's because we didn't follow one of these 3 tips here. So as we look at the instructions, the first thing we need to do to know where to start, we're going to follow number order. Here's 1 and 2, 3 and 4. We need to follow in order. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we don't follow in order and we try to skip steps, we'll probably be confused, or our cat will not turn out looking like a cat. The second thing we need to remember is to turn your paper to match the instructions. That means if we have a square paper, we need to turn it to match this shape. It needs to look like a diamond because that's what the instructions show. If we held it like a square, when we read the instructions, it says fold it in half. Go fold it in half. But we weren't holding it how it shows in the instructions, so now we have a rectangle instead of a triangle. That's not going to work. Make sure you turn your paper to match the instructions. Make careful folds. So when we go and fold to match the instructions, we don't want to go too fast and end up with our paper like this all over the place. Now we go to step 2, and this does not look quite as nice as that because we forgot to make careful folds. To make a careful fold, you bring the 2 parts of the paper together that it shows you in the picture. So in this example, it shows the arrow starting up here. So we want to pick up the paper where the arrow starts and move it down to where the arrow ends. So we'll pick it up here, move it down, folding the paper in half, and touching where the arrow ends at the bottom. Now I haven't flattened this yet. It looks like a roll here. I'm holding these together. If they're a little bit off like this, I line them up to make my careful fold. I pinch them together here. Now I can flatten this. I'm holding this together so it doesn't move. This helps me make a careful fold with my edges all lined up. That's going to make our origami turn out very nice and clean. Now that matches that. I have my square flat paper here, ready to make my cat by following the instructions. You need to remember, we're going to start with 1, following number order. we're going to turn our paper to match the picture. Now we're going to make a careful fold following the arrow, picking it up at the top where the arrow starts and folding it down to where the arrow ends, holding it together and making a careful fold. Now we go on to step 2. This is a triangle and that is a triangle, but we need to turn our paper to match the instructions. Now we see an arrow bringing these two sides together. Let's follow what that arrow does, picking up where the arrows are at the end and bringing those together. To touch, I haven't flattened it yet, see it's still a roll. I make sure that my corners line up to a nice point. My edges are on top of each other like this. Now I can flatten. See, my left hand is holding the paper together so it doesn't move, as my other hand flattens this down. Let's see. Now we're on to number 3. I'm looking for that number. 2 to 3. Now, this triangle is turned a little bit different than this one. Now, this is a trick that they use in origami sometimes. They forgot to tell us, but we're actually going to unfold this fold that we just made. I'm going to open it back up, and that gives us a center line. We made that second fold just to make a line down the middle that's going to help us with step number 3. This line down here, this dotted line going up this way, and this one going this way, is where our folds should be. Let's look from 3 to 4 before we fold, because our paper should go from looking like this in number 3 to looking like this in number 4. Remember, we can pick up the paper where the arrow starts. That's right in here, right in the middle of this half of the bottom of the paper, right there. And it's going to come up, and I'm going to put my finger where this arrow ends, right here. Now when this one comes up, I'm going to put it right where that finger is, like that. Now this shape matches this shape pretty well. Let's try on the other side. We can look at what we did on this side. We can see how it's supposed to look in number 4. And we'll follow what the arrows show, bending this one up, holding it in place, checking before we flatten it. That looks pretty good there. Now I'll flatten it. Now we did 3 to 4. We have this looking like 4. 4 says fold in the dotted line. Dotted line is right across here, and the arrow shows that we're going to pick up that tip and bring it down here. Pick up the tip, and bring it down there. Okay, this looks like number 5 here. Wants to spring open a little bit. 5 says turn over. When we see a curly arrow, that's showing us turn the paper over. I'm going to turn it all the way over. And there is our cat shape, just like this. Now it just needs a face on it. I'd love to see what creative faces you can make for your cat. You can make any kind of decoration for your origami you want to make it special. Here's one that I did for my cat. Kind of looks like an evil pig though. Here's a beautiful one that my wife made too. If you can do the cat instructions, you can also do the dog instructions. They're almost the same. Watch this. I take the cat I folded, flip it over, spin it around. Now it looks like the dog. After you've tried the cat and the dog instructions, I hope you'll decorate your origami and then post it to Schoology. On Schoology you can also find more instructions that I've used with students in the past that I know work pretty well. After you've done that cat and dog, try the tulip and the penguin next. Those are the next easiest, and they're a lot of fun and they turn out really cool. Have fun!